So this is my Felder AD741 joiner planer combo. It's about a model year 2000, so 20 years old right now. And although the quick change knives in this machine are pretty easy to change out, I preferred the Byrd cutter head that I had in my previous combo machine. So purchased the cutter head for this machine, and have found very little info online about changing out the cutter head in a machine like this, so I figured I would take a video of the process. Here we go. All right, we got the 4 bolts loose here that are in the flange of the motor, and now we're gonna loosen the tensioning screw. All right, now that we got the tension screw loose, the belt will come off. And this belt's in perfectly good condition, so we'll reuse that. Now it looks like the feed rollers will stay in place, but the tensioning springs are located in the housing that holds the cutter head. So we're gonna go ahead and pull these guys loose. All right, and now we'll go ahead and take these 2 bolts loose, and then we'll move to the other side. So there are 6 main bolts on each side that hold the cutter head assembly in place. The 2 back here that we just took out, 2 up here, as well as 2 below that are accessed from above the planer table. Same thing on this side, 2 here, 2 here, and 2 here. So I'm going to pull those out now. I'm going to start on the inside, and I think we have to lift the hood to access the lower ones. Now the other 2 screws down there, looks like we have to remove this chip breaker to get those out. And while we're at it, we'll go ahead and pull, should have done this first, but we'll go ahead and pull the blades so that I don't get lacerated in this process. So now you'll be able to see this is the, not a Tersa knife, but this is Felder's quick change system. You have a 4mm Allen wrench, and you loosen up the Gibbs screws here. And then this whole assembly slides out. And the nice thing with this assembly is what makes it kind of a quick change is once the machine is tuned, you pull this out. The blades are precision machined. These are not sharpenable. These are throwaway blades, and they have these precision holes that index on the head. So you merely flip your blade over, pop it on to these locating pins, drop it in, and then the Gibbs screw, or this may not really be a Gib, but this grub screw will wedge up against this V in here, so it will locate in the same place every time. So you can change your blades out fairly easily with these, but they're definitely not as durable as the carbide. So I'll go ahead and take the rest of those out, and then we'll come back. All right, this took me a second to figure out. There's a kind of a pivot pin over here, and there was one over on the other side over is here as well that I just took out. And so you got to get inside here with the 4mm, and there's a grub screw in there, and you're taking that out, and you're thinking, you're being very careful, and you're thinking that you're taking the screw out, but it's just a grub screw. And then behind that is this secondary screw. Now you can see that break loose there. We'll pull this out, and then hopefully get it out without losing it. There we go. So set those aside. And then there's a bolt right here, which is probably a size or two up. We'll try 5. There we go. The same right here. There's another Allen head screw underneath that holds the tensioning spring. Let's see if I can't get you in there. Probably not. No. There's that bolt that we got to get out, and then right bolt to the side right there is that other Allen wrench. So I'll bust that loose and we'll come back. Why they had to make this thing so damn complicated, I don't know. But apparently there is a shaft that runs through here that the anti-kickback fingers and the planer dust hood ride on, and it took me a few minutes to figure it out. This little cover plate that we took off down here is the retainer. So this thing, if we it just slides in there. So we're going to tap it from the other side, and I'm going to try to thread a rod in there to catch all this stuff so it doesn't fall off, so we don't have to stitch it all back together. But fit in here. That's not what to do. All right, fuck it. We're just gonna make a mess. Oh, Jesus. So, oh, interesting. So these are all resting on this bar below. So I guess that's how we'll end up putting it back together. But we'll at least try to keep these things, most of these things together here. Skewer. All right. Yeah, ready to come out. That was what I was worried about, was if it was going to hit those guys. So I definitely don't want to have to move my tables. All right, let me think on this for a minute. All right, I've been fucking with this thing for a little bit, and there's no way that this guy's coming out without the tables being out of the way. And the best way I can think to do that, I don't want to touch any of the fine adjustments because the odds of me being able to get it back to where it is poor. So it looks like we can remove the front cover, the front end caps, and then loosen those pins, and then basically raise the table up a couple inches right there, and hopefully that will have them high enough where we can pull these guys out. So I'm going to work on that now. Didn't expect that to work. There we go. There. These to hold here. Alright, that's still safe. Alright. I think that's going to work. I'm going to do the same on the other side and come back. Alright, here goes. Yeah, baby. Alright. We've got to take off these two lock nuts here and that lock nut there, and then we can see about getting some new bearings tomorrow. So I did a little research before I took this thing apart and made sure I had the right wrench for these lock nuts, and they are a fairly standard SKF lock nut, and that is the correct tool, and it fits both of the two sizes on this machine. So we're gonna see if we can get these guys loose, assuming they're standard. Wouldn't be surprised if one of these is reverse thread. This one looks standard, so we'll go that way with it. Alright, it's moving. Oh, there we go. I'll try to put it on just as tight. I noticed in the book this calls for an RS1 bearing, and I looked that up, and that means that the bearing only has a seal on one side. And I thought, well, that's crazy. So here's the seal on that side, and on the other side it's wide open, but it has a grease fitting here so that you can actually grease the bearing. And then on the shaft there is a seal here that seals up the backside. So this seal here, very similar to the seal on the backside of an old four-wheel drive truck spindle. But as you push grease in there, old grease will come out, and you can keep it going that way. So obviously it is not an easy task to replace the bearings on this thing, so keep it greasy. All right, here we go. On the other side, we're gonna pull off the, this is the drive belt, V-belt. And there we go. I don't know if the book says anything about hitting this with a hammer, but you know, works for me. Pretty solid, so we'll put the puller on here. I really like this one. It's an old Plum, American made, and just easy to adjust the width. So this probably my go-to puller. It fits, works on a lot of different things. There we go, look at that. Just like in the movies. And so that side faces out. There's a keyway down there. We'll leave that be. Break this guy loose. More of the same. Last thing I'm going to do, now that we're all apart here, we got the feed rollers for the planer mechanism and the bearings in here, and this bearing, as I'm pushing it, there's a lot of resistance. So we're gonna go and pull those guys and replace those 4 bearings as well. All right, ready to start going back together. Decided to keep the main bearings because they are a bit expensive, and this machine had super low hours on it when I picked it up. I didn't even think they had changed the blades out one time, so these bearings are probably just getting broke in. And they're very clean, they are tight and greasable, so I'm not worried about old grease like you might have in a fully sealed bearing. I did pick up the new end seals, and so we're gonna pop those on and see if we can get this thing together. All right, so bored a hole in a block of wood so I don't fuck this end up anymore, and we're gonna stand it up and try to hammer it on that way. So it's probably not gonna be pretty. Happens. I come out here in the morning in my pajamas just to kind of think about things, and then I start working. All right, so that's that guy. Side on, I had to drill a hole in a block of wood a little bit undersized and use that to clamp this end, and that ended up working really well to be able to hold that still while I torque that nut on there with the hammer. So we're good to go here. Gonna move on to the other side and get this guy back in. I'm sure this would not be approved by either Felder or Byrd, but you know, this is the real world out here, and this is what it looks like. I'm gonna stick a feeler in there, make sure I'm bottomed out, and then we'll put the nut on. All right, got that guy on, and now I'll put the key in, and then the pulley. feels a little stiff. $984.5. Ooh. That's just under an inch. Just about a thou or so under an inch. Same thing, that's a thou under an inch. A little over a thou. I'm gonna go check the other one. Well, balls, just heard back from Byrd, and apparently that OD did not get ground. That's why it's about 15 thou off, and so in order to get that fixed, I gotta pack this thing up and send it back to him, which sucks, but it is what it is. I did ask them if they could pre-assemble this for me, and so I'm going to send them, you know, the castings and everything, so that once I get it back, I can simply drop this thing right in the machine and get back to it. So that's that.